Well, hello and welcome to this session on how to diagnose issues using system health. So this is a short lesson designed to help system administrators and support colleagues working with Sage CRM who may need to investigate issues using the system health monitoring page. The training session is going to cover the key information that you need to know to investigate the product, and it'll also direct you to the main sources of reference that you can use. Key site for getting information that can help you troubleshoot any issue is always going to be the Help Center. So this contains the system admin guides for each of the supported versions for Sage CRM. You probably know that Sage CRM is a complex product with lots of different elements that make up the user interface. It has a hybrid architecture, and the features are partly provided via a COM-based IIS extension and others via a set of Apache Tomcat web apps that communicate over a Java COM bridge. And some features are driven by user actions, and some behavior is triggered by the passage of time, system events, or changes to data are monitored actually in real time. So there are services running on the server that support the features of the main interface, so there are services as well. And all this means that there are so many moving parts that need to be understood in case something goes wrong, in order that the point of failure can be identified swiftly and fixed. And you can see here the person's summary screen. And what we can also see very clearly is that this is a browser-based application. So the user interface is HTML and is drawn in the browser as a result of a standard web HTTP request. You can see the URL that's being used here, and you can see that the screen is a result of a call to a file called eware.dll. And you can see the eware.dll within the URL that's on the screen. This eware.dll is a 32-bit COM application written in a language called Delphi. And the diagram shows how a request is sent from the browser, and it's either over HTTP or HTTPS to the eware.dll that runs under IIS, that's the Internet Information Services web server. The eware.dll is an ISAPI extension, so that's an Internet Server Application Programming Interface extension that is accessed by the HTTP request in the same way that we might request a static HTML file. There are several Windows services that are also installed on the web server that work alongside the eware.dll and share its architecture, so it's 32-bit COM-based. And these can be seen underneath the Windows Management Console within the Services app. The particular services that we're looking at are going to be the CRM Email Manager, and that's responsible for the processing of inbound emails. The CRM Escalation Service, and this controls notification, SLA timings, and escalation rules. The CRM Indexing Service, which enables the keyword search feature. The CRM Quick Find, that enables the Quick Find feature that appears in the top part of the system screens. And there's also, you might actually see, but it's not listed on this diagram, the CRM Integration Service that supports ERP integration capabilities used by Sage CRM with certain Sage ERP software. And it's only used in certain Sage developed integrations. Highlighted services, the Mail Manager, the Escalation Service, and the Keyword Indexer all communicate directly with the eware.dll and share its architecture. The one that I haven't highlighted, the Quick Find feature, uses a licensed third-party component called Solar to enable the Quick Find search. I've extended now the diagram on screen to show Sage CRM's hybrid architecture that mixes Java technology with the COM-based eware.dll design. The Apache Tomcat server is developed by the Apache Software Foundation and provides an ideal Java HTTP web server environment in which Java code can run. And The idea is that it's a simple, robust web server that allows web applications written in Java, and all of those are sorted libraries that can be used to extend the features of Sage CRM. And if you're a system administrator or a support engineer colleague, then you're likely to be aware of Tomcat as it is mentioned in system messages. In Sage CRM, there are a large number of features that are provided through this Java-based technology, and these include the interactive dashboard, data import and data export, the document upload feature, there's the server-side mail merge, and including actually print to PDF. All to any of these features that I've mentioned starts off as a web request, basically a URL, and these are then all sent to IIS, the main web server, but is then redirected to the Tomcat server and web apps. And Sage CRM does this by using the application request routing, ARR, and UL rewriter modules of IIS. So AAR is an extension to IIS, which allows an IIS server to be configured to route incoming requests to a different web server using a set of rules or algorithms. The Tomcat structure allows features to be added to Sage CRM through additional Tomcat web apps. So you've got things like the Exchange integration, MailChimp integration, and certain accounting integrations that are examples of features provided by using or extending these web apps. But what we've seen so far is that there are several key moving parts within Sage CRM, each responsible for enabling different components. And this is very much a hybrid architecture, and that means we need to consider the configuration of the core eWare DLL, perhaps when investigating issues for such things like email. The services need to be considered as well. These manage the quick find and escalation rules. And then there's also the Tomcat web apps that are the basis of many of the features such as the dashboard and import and export, etc. Sage CRM actually gives a system administrator an overview page, which is very useful for investigating any issues that may happen. And so I'm going to log on now to Sage CRM as an administrator. And then once I'm in the system, I need to access the administration screens, which I can do via the menu on the top right. And then I need to click on System. And there you can see in the bottom left, you can see the System Health page. The System Health page displays the status of a range of different components. The component can have one of the following statuses. So if you look down the list, you can see that there are green ticks and there's amber symbols and there's a red box. So the green tick indicates that the component is working properly. The amber icon indicates that the component is not enabled, and the red cross indicates that there are issues perhaps with the component. And we have distinct areas being checked. And this is a dynamic check that is repeated each time the page is accessed. So when you come into here, it's going to be making checks dynamically to see whether you can see whether Apache Tomcat itself is up and running, whether the particular UL rewrite is working correctly, whether SData 1.1 is working or SData 2 is working. The SData 2 endpoint is actually the same as the endpoint for the REST API. You've got to check here to point out whether the quick find service is running, notifications are running, exchange synchronization, the SMTP connection is checked, and then also we look at the CRM escalation server and the indexing server as well. So the full set of checks on these different items, and the online help has a comprehensive description for each of the checks that is carried out. And what you can see from here, that the guide explains how the check takes place and whether there's, if you are experiencing an issue, it shows you how the check works and what to do if you're troubleshooting it as well. So these checks are mainly calls to service endpoints, that are looking for either a particular HTTP result or another diagnostic check. So this slide and the next slide provides examples of where the name of the instance of Sage CRM is CRM. So I'm assuming here that you've installed CRM called CRM. And you can see all the different endpoints that are being referenced. Now you'll need to check the documentation for a full explanation of how the URLs are built and the tests are carried out. Please notice here that you've got some port checks as well, and they may be relevant for the diagnostic information, misreporting some things occasionally if ports have changed, and I'll maybe mention that a little bit later on as well. But these checks can be multi-part. There needs to be a check sometimes on the value of metadata stored in the system database, whether a flag has been set one way or another. And typically this is a value inside the custom sysparams table, which is also then set using an administration screen. And the services are also checked by processing sometimes a process ID or requesting a process ID from the operating system. And that indicates whether a service itself is running. So where you're looking at a service running within the context of the operating system, the system requests essentially a PID, a process ID, looking to see whether it is in fact running. Many of the checks can be carried out externally from Sage CRM. That means you can automate these. You've got the possibility of, because they are standard checks looking at endpoints, you could design something to automate a system to monitor it outside of the interface. Now here you can see that I've created a Postman collection that includes links to the different URLs and service endpoints that are published. This example is looking at the availability of the Exchange integration. In my case, I can see that an HTTP result of 200 is returned, indicating that the URL is good and contactable, but you can also see that the process is not running. And that's, as you can see from the system health page, you can see very clearly that that is the case, so it's not running. Now, another place where you can find information about these is actually to, if we are considering the system health page itself, the dynamic checks for most of the items covered by the page is going to be echoed inside the system log. And so another place where you can look for information to understand what is being checked is to look into the logs. And the dynamic checks then show up in the system EWS system log, and you can see how the results are being returned. And in my case, you can see all of these have returned 200, indicating that each of the services was contactable. Now, I've just returned here to the Postman collection to look at the behavior of the quick find. Now, this check within the system health page is a multi-part check. The page sends an HTTP request using the URL specified in the Solar Engine URL record, and that's something that is set inside the custom sysparams database table. And you can, that's purpose is to check to see whether the CRM quick find service is accessible, and that's really the Solar Engine is accessible. And then it does a second check to see if the specific CRM endpoint is available, and whether the find feature, the search feature, is working. So the health check doesn't verify if CRM data is indexed properly. That's a second topic, and that is really could be a subject for another lesson. But here with a two-part check, and that allows us, if we were to take that URL that I've used here, that Solar check, is you can actually put that into a browser address. You can see here with the two-part check allows us to see that the Solar Engine is present and working. If I look at the other URL that is used, You can see that this is the second part of the two-part check, and this is a simple empty query that is sent to allow the specific Sage CRM quick find feature to be checked. You can see there's nothing being returned because there isn't actually a query being passed to it. Now, I hope what I've gone through here has allowed you to learn a little bit more about the system health page and the checks that it carries out. So these checks will all help you narrow down issues that you may experience with the software, but you do have to make sure that you reference the documentation. That's why I put the documentation back up here. Each of the components covered by the system health page has a set of troubleshooting tips. And if I just follow this Apache Tomcat troubleshooting tip here, you can see that I'm given concrete advice about what to check. So when you're investigating any issue within the features covered by the system health page, then you should also make sure that you check out Sage City. And the documentations I would also include in here is to look to see if there's anything reporting, maybe linked to a particular version. So here you can see that has taken place around 2018 R3. And you can see that this is a good source of information about troubleshooting issues around with, as it says here, considering HTTPS and different ports. So that's one of the things to consider. That brings me to the close of my presentation.